you know, mate.
Ready when you are, brother.
Yeah. Okay. So today, we've been kindly joined by CIPHER J.E.W.E.L.S. Nice to see you here again and met the reconnection again, brother. You know, so it's great to have you here. Now, today we're going to be discussing it around intergenerational wealth in the Black community. So I think we'll start off with CIPHER when you're ready. If you could tell the people, who are you?
Man, Keith Cheyenne Smith, aka CIPHER J.E.W.E.L.S. Started off in the music industry. Spent, I don't know, probably about 13 really when I got into the music industry, DJing, started to produce music, make music, and then from there, like making music, making albums, then running our own label, doing our own distribution, you know, getting everything, you know, organizing our own shows, our own tours.
Wow.
And that's kind of how, from doing that, that's how I got into business in general, really, because it's not like my family background. My mother was a nurse, my father was working at a factory.
Yeah.
So it's not like we grew up with like people who were into business around us, but it was more a thing of having to learn how to actually develop a career in the music industry, taught me how to actually build a business. So that's my background, really, brother.
Okay.
You know?
That's good. And sorry.
I just see myself as a normal guy. You know, I'm a father. You know, I'm committed to my community. I love my community. I want to see things change. I want to see things improve. So I'm doing what I can, where I can, to kind of, you know, make a commitment to that and help things move forward. You get what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's become clear over the weeks. We all can do our bit as long as we're doing our bit. Yeah, you know, we're doing good. We're doing good. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Get back.
Absolutely. So again, I'm going to introduce the topic again. So the topic is around intergenerational wealth. Now, there's been a lot of I was been doing some reading and stuff, and it's not just so much about generational wealth. It's about that intergenerational wealth and how we leave that legacy, and how we can leave our family with a positive financial imprint, rather than say debt or that sort of stuff. How we can help, because you know what was very clear to me, you know what, watching programs like Homes and the Hammer, Home in the Country, is that we used to see I think you know what I'm going to say. You watch their programs and and people are coming on and they're saying, right, yeah, my budget is 850,000. I mean, say, weird, 850,000. Yeah, where are these people getting 850,000 pound budget to be able to go and buy those houses over there? Yeah, and when I think about it, and when you're deep it still, you think, hold on, we're talking about second, third generation, you know, property owners. That's what's allowed these things to sort of happen. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, these are sort of
the whole thing is that wealth is generational. Like, really, like, you know, don't expect to win the game, you know, in a day or in a year or 5 years or 10 years. We're talking about how can we plan and put things into action, which is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years. You know, we're putting things into action that we personally might not see the fruits of necessarily.
Yes.
But we're doing it in the faith that our children and grandchildren will benefit, and our community will be in a much stronger place in the future. And if you look at, say, for example, you could take China. 100 years ago, China was a country that was, it was ruled by foreigners. They had civil war. They were disunited. They had, you know, in terms of poverty and deprivation, they were below any other, you know what I mean? They were as low as you could get as a developing country.
Yes.
100 years of really focusing and mindful building of their economic prowess, really. They are now, you know, top of the, you know, at the top table. They're sitting at the top table with the US. So we're not talking about short term. We're not talking about we're going to solve all these problems today. And I'm not even saying that me as an individual can't solve the problems of our community. You know, if we develop a culture whereby we as a community are everybody's wealth building, it's a trendy thing to talk about. It's a normal thing to talk about. We teach our children about it. We're putting these things into position and into practice. It just means that in 30 years' time, our community will be in a different place.
Yes.
Because the reality is wealth, the differential in wealth, the wealth gap that we have in terms of we as a black community, you know, there were some figures that were released on the 20th of June in the Guardian newspaper that basically the black community in the UK is 10 times less wealthy. So we have a tenth of the wealth of the average British person on average. Like, how are we supposed to compete really on those kind of terms? How, you know, when we are, and it affects everything. It affects education, it affects health, it affects politics, it affects, you know, economics, it affects housing, it affects everything.
Yes.
So we need to be thinking, how can we change this paradigm? And a key thing about that is building our community to be stronger. And wealth building is a key part of that.
Wow. Wow. And you know what? It's crazy because if we look at the build up of China, I remember as a kid, everything was made in China. Do you know what I mean? Everything at the bottom, you know, you look at the bottom of this, it was made in China. So a lot of the non-skilled labor force and stuff, all that work shifted continents. So it provided opportunity for their economy to grow. Whereas countries like England, which had good manufacturing setups and everything else, that's gone on the decline, and actually, you know, with consequently lost out, and only the rich are really are the ones left standing. Do you know what I mean? So
they literally went at it with a plan, and I'm saying that our community, you know, the reality of it is that the concerns that we have now, we really had 50 years ago: poverty, homelessness, issues around housing, the fact that we don't own the communities that we live in, disenfranchisement, racism, police violence, the imprisonment of our young people. Do you understand? Like, these are the kind of issues that we were dealing with 50 years ago. And if we don't do something other than, if we just go with the flow and forget about it, because we keep forgetting that we've got these issues, and it's only when things get really bad that we realize, oh my Lord, what have we been doing? No, hold on, we need to change things. If we kind of focus on this and keep focused on how do we build our community and actually implement these things, then in 30 years, we'll be in a different place. 2 generations, we'll be in a different place. We won't be having the same conversations, because the reality is there's a reason why our young people are the ones who are being in prison more than any other group on average in this country. Mm-hmm. It's because our powerlessness, the fact that we can't create jobs and jobs for our young people to actually go into, the fact that we were not able to, our young people, we realistically, this education system does not prepare them for the world that they have to compete in.
Yes. And
then you've got a criminal justice system which is unfair to them. You know, you've got lack of employment opportunities and economic opportunities. If we can change that, if we can actually build successful businesses that where we can employ our youth, where we can train our youth, where we can develop our young people to be able to compete, you know, where we can build very, very successful businesses, we buy assets, we're able to create schools, we're able to use our influence to sit on school boards and educational boards. We're able to, you know, have more political clout because our community is wealthier.
Yes.
And this is not about individuals, because if one person's got a lot of money, if you got a lot of money, bro, and there's about 10 people got a lot of money, and we've all got nice houses, that is not going to change the reality of our community.
Yes.
This has to be collective. We need to improve these numbers, which say our community has a tenth of the wealth of the average British person. That's diabolical, bro. That's got to be changed immediately. We've got to at least be on eye level. We need to be having a conversation as equals, not as, you know, we're sort of subservient, in a subservient position, having conversations with people who are powerful and expecting justice. Because, you know, being able to be self-sufficient and having wealth is a key part of equality. You know, you want to have equality because you respect. You know, you respect me as in, you respect our community for what we are. And that's why we have equality. I don't want equality because you pity me. You understand? You pity me and you believe, you feel sorry for us. And we're begging and we're expecting equality. Long term, that is not the way that we can't function like that. Do you understand?
Yes.
We need to be having a conversation as equals. And this is the way we move forward, collectively building the wealth in our community. Collectively, you know, taking responsibility for teaching our young people the knowledge of self and the knowledge of who they are. And the reality of where they are in the world, you know, and, you know, making sure that we address the health concerns that exist in our community. We know we've got issues around high blood pressure, we've got issues around sickle cell, diabetes. You know, we need to be thinking, can we get some black health professionals together to actually, what strategies do we need to implement to improve the situation around health in our community? We need to do the same for education. We need to do the same for jobs. We need to do the same for training. Do you know what I mean? We need to be thinking, how can we be self-sufficient? And for me, I just think that it can't just be, we need a leader and the leaders are going to do it. It's like something that we as a community need to implement together.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because what was interesting, I was looking at how the impacts of our health can impact on our intergenerational wealth. You know, for example, like you said, around that. All right then. So with intergenerational wealth again, they were also talking about planning for not just your living, but also planning for when you're not here and planning for when you're gone.
Facts.
Yeah.
Bro, I mean, you know, you think about life insurance, how important life insurance is, because, you know, a funeral will cost you as much as a wedding.
Yeah.
And they never happen, you know, a lot of the time these deaths in our community, in our families, they're not expected. And for you to have to find £5,000, £6,000 to have a funeral, what about, you know, what's going to be, how are your family going to cope? Like, life insurance is vital.
Yes.
Having a will is vital. How many times in our community have somebody passed away, and unfortunately, because there was no will left, like, the family starts to fall out with each other over the house, the money that was left, and all the rest of it. It causes problems. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes these problems are long lasting. Yeah. People just don't talk because of the disagreement. And this, I mean, I don't know if you remember, bro. Do you remember? Are you aware, like, you know, for example, like Bob Marley didn't leave a will, and the fight that his family had to go through, like, it was years, you know, like literally, we're talking 10 years plus.
Yeah.
So we need to be putting strategies in place to ensure, like, our children's future. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, I got a little list here. So when I'm talking about generational wealth, like I said, I'm thinking about long-term thinking. I'm thinking about what are we going to do in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 50 years. What are we going to implement? So I'm talking about saving. And I'm not saying that you're going to have millions and millions and millions overnight. I'm talking about a little bit.
Yes.
Saving a will to make sure that if anything happens to you when you pass away, that people know where your assets need to go to. Life insurance is vital. I'm telling you, it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing. And then investment. So we're talking like land, property, businesses, shares in companies, dividends, precious metals, gold and silver, and just remembering that this is all a process that, if you're going to learn more over time, and don't expect everything to just change overnight. Just take baby steps, take your time and learn, and then just implement the strategies. And it's not necessarily saying that there's only one way, there's only one strategy. You need to develop a plan for you, but you need to develop a plan. That's one thing that is a necessity, You need to develop a plan, and you need to accumulate assets, and you need to find a way to ensure that your income is more than your outgoing, and that you can keep that consistent. And invest in your children, man. Like, I'll be real with you. Like, I just think all of us should try as hard as we can to put our children in a better position than we were. Think about, where do we want them to be, and what do we want them to know, so that they can compete? Because this is a competition. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, if this was football, I'm trying to be Liverpool or Man United. I'm not, no disrespect to nobody. I'm not really trying to be Coventry FC or, you know what I mean? We're trying to win here.
Yes.
And no disrespect to the Coventry fans. I don't mean no disrespect. But I'm just saying, we're trying to win.
Yes.
We're trying to win. Collectively, we need to. Our life depends on it. Because I'm telling you, if our community was economically powerful, right, you wouldn't have situations like Belly Malinga. You wouldn't have situations like Mark Duggan. You wouldn't have our young people getting stopped and searched every 5 minutes. You wouldn't have the high unemployment that we have in our community. Yeah. You wouldn't have all of our young people being the highest demographic in these prisons disproportionately. You think about the stress and the anxiety and all these issues that we have in our communities.
Yes.
We need to take responsibility for ensuring that we improve our situation and not expect a solution to drop from the clouds or for somebody to provide a solution for us. We need to collectively do it together. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, when you was mentioning about, again, going back to the life insurance, man, I just want to put at a point, I think we need to come to a point, where we stop seeing GoFundMe pages for our people and our loved ones and our beloved ones' funerals. We need to be doing that.
Yeah, man.
We need to stop.
I get it though. Do you know what I mean? I get it though, because you never expected this person to pass away. And like, people don't just have that knocking about.
Yeah.
Money just like that there. So, but the life insurance will mean that you can cover the cost of the funeral, and then there's some money left over for your family to deal with, like, how they can live where you're not there to provide an income. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
There to pay off any taxes, there to pay off any liabilities that you may have after your death, to make sure that the assets that your family has that can be passed to them without being taken away and having to be sold up to pay your bills.
Yeah.
So it's vital, man. It's vital. And I know, like, there was a time when I was growing up, people didn't really like to talk about things like this.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you, like, it was almost like a taboo subject to bring up things like this. But we really need to be purposeful in thinking about things like this and planning. We can't expect to just go with the wind, and wherever we land, we land. we've got to be planning and saying, this is the destination that we want to reach. And these are the steps we're going to put in place to make sure we get there. And we got to make it happen. And like, remember, this is a relay race. You know, this is a relay race. So I'm going to pass the baton on to the next generation. And we want them to be in a better position than we were. And we need to raise them with the expectation that, yo, we don't expect you to just buy one bag of Louis Vuitton with this baton, you know.
Yeah.
You need to pass this baton on to the next generation in a better position than what you had. So we're talking in 2-3 generations, we're not even having the same kind of conversation that we've been having for the last 50 years. We're in a different place. This is a different black community, and you need to talk to us on a level, eye to eye, with some kind of respect.
Yes.
But this is not gonna. You can't demand respect while you're powerless. In someone trying to say, and I'm not trying to say we are, but we are.
Yes.
We gotta accept that we're not in the position that we should be, and we gotta be serious about changing the situation. You know, and it can be, and it's not. And like I said, it's not. We can do it. We can do it. Can stand. There's no need for any doom and gloom. I'm a positive thinker. We can do it. We just have to be on it. We just have to be serious.
Yes.
You get me?
Listen, you know, I said we weren't going to do no questions like that, but I've had a good question pop up on the screen, and it was about, if you was to recommend an investment, what would you recommend?
I'll be honest with you, right? I think when it comes to investments, again, it's about, you know, let's say, for example, property. Property is a massive area. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So, you know, you could do stocks and shares. That's a massive area. Me personally, I would say land and property because it's tangible.
Yes.
The population of the planet is growing, but there's still only 196,940,000 square miles on the planet Earth. That's not growing. Do you get what I'm trying to say? The amount of land that we have is not growing, but the population is growing. And I personally can say that making investments in property, that I've been successful with it. So I would advise property as a good thing. More for a long-term thing as well. Yeah. But I think that really, if you're going to invest, that you should try and develop like a portfolio. Try and have you want to have, I'm not saying that these, like I said, again, we're not saying that overnight. I'm saying, say you got some property, you got some shares, you got some dividends, you got life insurance, you got a pension. You know, you're building a portfolio. You're not just focusing on one thing and saying, I'm just going to have property. You want to kind of have different kinds of assets that you build a portfolio. And I'm saying every family should have a portfolio. I'm saying every family should have, where do we want to be in 5 years? Where's the plan? Every family should have a plan.
Yes.
You sit together and be like, yo, you and your queen sit down, bam. Let's put a plan together of what we want to do. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And make sure you do your research and study the area so that you're making, because remember, you need the data to make a good decision, and the data comes from information.
Yes.
So make sure you're committed. You're committing yourself to learn for life. Every day I want to learn something and make sure I'm making better decisions with these assets. Because I don't think that I know it all. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Every day I'm trying to learn something like, all right, how can I improve what I'm doing and improve what we're doing? Because remember, I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about my whole family. I'm thinking about as a team. I'm thinking about our community as a team. Do you get what I'm saying? And how can we put ourselves in better position? So getting back to the brother's question, or the sister's question, sorry, I'm saying that if it was me, I think land and property is key. but I'm saying that try and look at it, build a portfolio which includes numerous different types of assets, and make sure that you learn about what these assets are and how they work. Don't just trust an expert or anybody and to make investments for you. You're supposed to know your thing.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
No, that's good. So, you know, when you're talking about that, because the other thing, right, when we're talking about money is a taboo thing, yeah? People are very secretive in the community about our financial fears and everything else. So even in terms of like understanding stuff around credit history and lessons, what sort of things could we be teaching the next generation? Because I do you know what, 90s, when Mercury 121 come out with the phone, I think the amount of people that mash up themselves, getting themselves a 77 phone, yeah, right? And never probably maintained that, because they were never given the guidance and sat down and had that talk about, listen, make sure you pay your bills, it's going to pay dividends for you in the future and everything else. Do you know what I mean? But again, these are the sort of lessons that we've had to learn. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we don't really have them. We don't really have them conversations, and we really should. Like, I mean, I'm not a credit specialist, but the basics is essentially make sure, you know, get yourself an Experian or an Equifax, get yourself some kind of credit report.
Yes.
And look at the issues on your credit report. And you need to be like, okay, all right, let's say, for example, you've got issues around defaults or CCJs. Find out who are these to, and work, you know, contact the people you owe the money to and resolve these things. And it takes time.
Yeah.
But, you know, you want to put into practice good kind of credit health, that you don't want to be taking on loans that you don't need. You don't really want to be taking on things that you don't necessarily need, and you don't want to take on things that you can't pay. And if you've had issues with payments in the past, you want to just go back and sort it out. You know, every problem can be resolved. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Every problem can be resolved. You just need to work at it, contact the companies that, you know, the issues on there, and just clean up your credit history. You can do things like, you know, you can get credit cards which are available for, you know, when you've got so-called bad credit, and you just need to, you know, use good practice with those cards. That will help increase your credit rating. Let's say, for example, you get a credit card and it's got a limit of £150. You know, you make sure you don't spend more than a third. I'm not saying don't use it at all, because you want to use it. You want to use it to demonstrate, because really what credit is demonstrating that I can take out a loan or use of money that is loaned to me, and I can be responsible in paying that back over time, consistently. So if you get a credit card that's like £150, £120 limit, and you try and make sure you keep your spending under a third. So if you know, so in your mind, it might be £150 limit. In your mind, that limit is £50, and you just literally, you know, £30 here, you pay it off. £20 there, next month you pay it off. You'll see at the end of the year, as long as you use it, it will help increase your credit rating, because you're beginning to build. Oh, this guy, you know, is doing all right. This lady is doing all right. She's paying the things that she has, those responsibilities over time. And you just need to try, don't take on anything you can't pay, and ensure the things that you do have, you do pay. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And over time, you will see that credit rating improve. Now, but there's other people out there who will be able to say to you, there's some other strategies that you can put in place. I'm just talking about the basics. I would say my area really, if you're talking about land, if you're talking about property, that's an area that I know very well. But I would definitely say to people, you know, get yourself a credit report, look at the issues that you got, try and sort out them issues, communicate with the people that you owe the money to. Most people are reasonable. Do you know what I mean? If you get letters and they're coming through the door, make sure you open them and deal with them. I know it's hard. Sometimes it's hard mentally, and you might think, I can't get out of this. But communication is key, because even if you can only pay 1 pence a month, but you communicate that, right? That will actually make things a lot better. It will resolve problems because you're communicating and you're showing that you want to make a commitment to resolving the situation.
Absolutely.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And it is that communication, because there is some cultures where, boy, some families, in terms of financial literacy, it's something that some people did not inherit. They weren't taught. They've had to learn after making mistakes again. So they've had to do a whole process of like changing your mindset around money. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's big, and it's certainly something I can personally say. Do you know what I mean? It's something I've had to learn, and
I'm me, brother.
Credit is a tool. Credit is a tool. And
yeah, man.
And somebody mentioned something about when it comes to like credit limits and stuff. If you use a third of that benefits. That's what benefits your. If you've got a credit card, use a third of it and no more.
Yeah, man.
So that
you want to keep it. If your balance is £1,000 in your mind, if your max is 1,000 in your mind, my max is £333. Do you understand?
Yes.
I know that works because I've seen it work for people. You just literally just discipline yourself, and you get there.
Yes. Wow. So in terms of like in terms of barriers, yeah. What do you think some of the barriers are for us as a community in terms of creating intergenerational wealth?
I mean, I think the first thing is that it is an area that we're not really used to discussing or focusing on, that we need to focus on more. And those who know need to share the knowledge with those who don't know. And like I said, I'm glad to see, since what's been happening with in March, and the fact that at the moment a lot of people in our community are more aware that we are beginning to see people coming together more.
Yes.
And I saw that from Legacy. We had a group called the Black Landlords Group, and they were coming and they were having meetings, and they were well attended.
Yes.
And there was a sister by the name of Jen, and she held a business meeting and she packed the place. And these are the kind of things that warm my heart, because we're sharing the knowledge with each other, and we're refocusing our intentions on let's sort out our community, take responsibility for sorting out our community. And like I said, I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
No individual can. But if we work together, and not everybody's good, we might not be able to get every single person on the same page.
Yeah.
But if there's enough of us on the same page, we can make a difference. I guarantee you we will. So again, man, I feel that things are improving.
Yeah.
But we just have to keep focused and ensure that we don't let this period where we're upset and we're trying to do something go, and the energy dissipates, and then we have to wait another 5 years until something else happens. We've got to be on this. This is not a moment. This has to be a movement.
Yes.
This is not a year, 6 months, a year. This is the next 30 years, we're going to implement this. And this is where we're going to be in 30 years' time. So I think the barriers are, we have a wealth gap between us and mainstream British society. We, as a community, we don't own as much assets as others. We don't have as many businesses as others. So, like I said, for me, in my mind, the glass is always half full, not half empty. What is the problem? Okay, these are the problems. So we know what the solutions are. We need to build, and we need to do that collectively.
Yes. And
as a community, we need to be thinking about wealth development, and we need to be thinking about generational wealth, and we need to be implementing these systems to ensure that we can do that. And we need to be disciplined enough to carry this on day by day, because it's the little things that seem boring that you keep doing that make the biggest change. Do you get what I'm saying? You might look at a man and think, you might look at yourself in the mirror and think, you know what? I know the way I want myself to look. I'm going to go to the gym. You go to the gym 3 times a day for a week. you know, you might notice some difference.
Yes.
But if you stop after that week, you understand? But you see, if you put that into action for a year, in a year's time, you're looking like, wow, whoa. I'm talking about 15 years, you know,
Yes.
20 years, 30 years, you know? So, and I know we can do it. And I'm not talking about us being hostile to any other community or hostile to, I'm not down with all of that.
I agree.
I'm not into hostile to anybody. You know, anybody who's successful and they're doing their thing, I don't begrudge you for your success. I'm just saying that I'm looking at our team, I'm looking at our community, I'm saying, we want this to stop, that we've got to put certain things in action. We know what we need to do. Historically, when we've done that before, we've been the most successful. You know, when our community came to this country in the 1960s, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, they were very intentional in working together to actually build a reality for our community. And I think we need to focus on that again.
And you know what, Saif? I think that kind of leads me on to the next question around what do you think about using partner to accumulate wealth locally? Because that was something that was happening during that particular period, especially, and it may have died off somewhat. But what do you think about that in terms of creating wealth locally?
The reality of it is that when I was a youth, partner is what people bought houses off, like straight up and down. Partner is what people bought houses from. I know I grew up seeing partner. So look, I know nowadays you got rules and regulations with all these kind of things. As long as people are operating within rules and regulations and making sure everything's above board,
yeah,
I think that it's something that we've used before in the past and been successful. And the reality of it is, I invest with our people, and it works. You understand what I'm trying to say? So, you know, you know, there's a lot of people in our community that I trust, and we've been doing things for years. So I don't see why we should have an issue of trust, because I'm telling you that as a youth growing up, I've seen 30, 40 families in partners, like literally, them partners, some of them were huge. It was like whole communities on partner.
Wow.
And making it work. That's how they were able to do a lot of these community centers and stuff that they bought and built, the elders. That's how it came.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea. I think we just have to make sure that we update the background, the compliance and everything to comply with today's rules and regulations, because we're not trying to get into trouble for doing the things that we need to do. You know what I mean? We're not trying to, you know, because we don't want any legal problems to stagnate our building. Keep it above board and keep it consistent.
Because you know what, there's another question about more creative ways, and that for me ultimately springs up thoughts around credit unions, whether that provides an option whereby we could do, say, perhaps credit unions within our community, you know, as perhaps a method.
Of course, man, and but you know, you've got organizations in our community like Opal. Okay. You got organizations like that act that sort of act in that sort of way.
Okay.
You know, so and for me, I just think that like our problems are multifaceted, so our solutions need to be multifaceted. Do we need credit unions? Yes. Do we need banks? Yes. Do we need? So for me, it's kind of like anything that we need, build it. You know, we've got people in our community who've been working in banking for years.
Yes.
You're telling me 10 of them can't get together around the table and be like, okay, let's create our own bank.
Yeah. And
let's put this into action. I don't see things, you know, when some people will see something and think, no, we'll never be able to do it, this is impossible. I'm just like, okay, how do we do this thing that's seemingly impossible? Break it down into small tasks, and let's implement a schedule to carry out these tasks to get the things that we need.
Yeah.
simple problem solving and action, man. Like, you know, and not too much talk with it neither. You know, get stuck in. And I know many of them. I'm telling you, if somebody, I worked in project management. I'm telling you, right. A lot of our black brothers and sisters who work as professionals in somebody's company are underpaid and overworked. They're given the most responsibility. They do brilliant jobs, but a lot of the time they don't get the promotion that they deserve and the pay rises that they deserve, you know, and they outperform their colleagues, but don't get rewarded for it. You know what? You know, I'm not saying give up your job. I'm saying you can develop the plan for what you need while you're working. You know, get some black banking professionals together. Let's do that. We've got issues around health. Can we get some black health professionals together, working with others, and solve the issues that we need? Because I'm not saying that, you know, that you know, you want to be doing things. You're not going to be like, oh, we're gonna do banking and CIPHER's doing banking. I've never worked in the banking industry. I've got an idea how it works, but there's other people who've got the knowledge to do that, and they need to do that, and we need to support them to do that. And when they set that bank up, we need to be putting our money in there and supporting them, and not talking them down when they create it, because these things take time to build, and sometimes we're our worst enemy, because when we've got things that we do own, we talk it down and we criticize each other too heavily compared to others who we do business with, who don't show us any favor or respect at all, and we don't complain about that.
Yes.
I'm not saying that we should have lower standards. I'm just saying we should have more loyalty, and we need to be a little bit more focused and make the loyal. I'm not saying standards, we should accept low standards, because we shouldn't.
No.
But we need to be very careful and mindful of where we spend our money. You know, and if we're not being treated with respect, don't spend your money where you're not respected. Don't spend your money where you're not treated well. Don't invest your money where you don't want your money to be invested in. You know, and be mindful of it.
Absolutely.
So I just think the solutions to all these there's solutions to them, brother, that we can implement, and we can be successful by implementing them. We just need to get the people who know on a specific area. They need to be meeting now.
Yes.
You know, I would love to see people, you know, our black politicians, our black professionals, our black health professionals, you know, our black wealth builders, our artists, you know, because arts and culture is very important as well.
Yes.
You know, we then need to be having conversations across the board. You know, our artists need to be having conversations like, okay, where's the ownership? Where's the distribution? Our health professionals need to be talking about, how do we prevent an issue like COVID really affecting our community this forthcoming winter or in forthcoming years? How do we reduce, you know, the issues, the illnesses which seem to plague our community more than others, like high blood pressure, like diabetes and things, heart disease and things of that nature?
Yeah.
How do we take action on that? Because if we're waiting for other people to come up with solutions for us, we'll be waiting forever. We need to take the initiative. We should be leading the thinking, and we should be leading the initiative, and then pulling other people in to come and support what we're doing, rather than we waiting for them to come up with a plan for us, and then they pull us in for a little consultation, and then we get services that don't really fit our needs, because we weren't involved in it from the beginning, the thinking, and we are not in there controlling the narrative and the initiative.
That's right. And if we think about across the diaspora, is it Haiti? I think it's Haiti that has the best doctors in the world, or the most number of doctors in the world.
To my knowledge, it's Cuba.
Cuba.
To my knowledge, it's Cuba.
Yes.
And I kid you not, I'll be honest with you, like, Cuba produces a lot of doctors, and you know, I was in Jamaica in a hospital maybe about maybe 10, 15 years ago, and I was treated by a Cuban doctor
Yes.
in a Jamaican hospital.
Yes.
There's quite a few of them, and they've been doing it for quite a long time. You know, our young people are very intelligent. You know, we shouldn't be thinking small time for them. We should be thinking, you know, we don't want you to go and work for the bank. We want you to be the chief executive of the bank.
Yes.
We don't want you to just we don't want you to be the nurse. We want you to be the head nurse. We want you to be the head surgeon.
Yes.
We want you, because our young people can do it. They're great. They're anything that they're directed to, they're excelling it. You know, look at the Williams sisters. There was never any black tennis players really who were successful. And Venus and Serena Williams completely changed the way tennis is played. And I'm saying we do it in sports and entertainment. But look, you know, when directed in the right direction into any field we're directed to, we can do the same. And we can excel in that field.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, it's not just me or, you know, I'm not just thinking about me and I'm not just thinking about my youth. I'm thinking about us as a community. If we collectively implement certain strategies, we'll be in a different place collectively.
Yes.
Because if I'm good and you're not, yeah, then I might be good today, but you see, tomorrow, you think that the stop and search ain't going to happen to me because I'm good. You know, you got to think about, all right, so your child might be good. What about their friend? What about their cousins? What about and I'm not trying to say you're going to be responsible for every single person in our community. I'm just thinking that what affects you affects me, you know.
Yeah.
So I want us all to win. That doesn't mean that I can solve everybody's problems, because I can't. But what I can do is try and share some knowledge. And I'm not saying that knowledge is all encompassing, but I'm saying that if enough of us do it, we can come to a consensus whereby people are thinking different. Yeah. People are implementing things. You might go and watch another video, or you might go and learn from somebody else, and they might give you another angle. That's great, because I don't think I have all the answers. But what I do know is that I'm committed to seeing change for us, and I want to see it happen, and I know that we can do it.
And do you know what, Saif? I mentioned in the live last week with Kush, when we was talking about, like, when we're talking about supporting, say, our own businesses and building the wealth within the community, right? That to the outside will be classed as radical thinking, but it's not radical. It's not described as being radical in any other community. It only seems to be described as radical when it comes to the black community. Do you know what I mean? It's just what communities do. You know what I mean? We're not talking about anything particularly revolutionary. It's just what communities do, the makeup of communities. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that we are now in a position where, you know, lockdown and everything that's happened has brought a lot of enterprise pages up, and people are thinking a lot more about this stuff and everything else.
I love it.
You know what I mean? It's good.
I love it, man.
It's good.
I love it, and we just need to keep that, but we don't want the energy to dissipate, and we want the energy to turn into action, and we want the knowledge to be implemented. We don't want the knowledge to just be sitting there. We want to implement that knowledge. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Saif, I'm looking at the time. We've got about 6 minutes left, right? So, I've went out and bought your book. I've read probably about a quarter of your book. Yeah, right. A quarter, honestly. So, you know what? It is very, very easy to read. Very, very, very easy to read. If you don't want, and it's just clear and very concise. What sort of led to you looking at writing this book? What inspired that?
I think basically what it was is that it's quite a story. Like, I used to get, people who are not familiar won't know when I say MD 7 days, when I was sort of working and touring as an artist. So we had a studio, and what happened is people used to send young people to the studio to come and talk to us and you know, just to be around us and learn things and for us to mentor them. We started doing a little bit of that, and I became very passionate about it. And I used to get a lot of young people ask me questions and stuff. And so I was like, okay, how do I create something that this generation can read, that can be very, very simple, which gives people practical solutions of how to do things. I didn't want to write something that was just for academics or scholars or for people who already knew. I wanted to write something that would give people the encouragement around getting the mindset right, but also the practical solutions. How do you practically buy a house? How do you practically buy land? How do you practically buy shares? You know, and I think at the time, I just bought a building in Jewelry Quarter, and I just fixed it up, and I was like doing a lot of different stuff. So I've been helping, there was the Gambian government. I was working around doing stuff around procuring sugar and stuff like that. I was doing, there was mining. I had like doing some mining in Africa. You know, I was working with some property developers in London. I was doing stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm learning a lot of stuff, and I was experiencing a lot of stuff, and I was like, okay, I don't want to keep this knowledge to myself. How do I share this with others in a way that is simple and doesn't make them think that I can't do this? I wanted to encourage people to be able to do it. So that's how I wrote the book. And to be fair, I'm in the process of renewing that, because there's more knowledge I've learned.
Good.
And also, so we're literally in the process of creating a part 2 to the book. But this time I'm going to have like some specialists in different areas also putting their thoughts on things. Because I never wrote the book for the book to be about me. I wrote the book for the book to be about the information, and for the information to be simple enough and useful enough that people can put into action, you know? So that's where the book came from, bro. I was literally in a place where I'd done a lot of stuff, and I sat down and I had a moment, and I literally just wrote the book like one big rhyme.
Wow.
So I literally was, I mean, back in the day when I used to write rhymes, I used to watch, you know, films, watch documentaries, and I was just literally wrote the book like a big rhyme and then edit it into chapters, you know. So I kind of hope that it reads quite easy so people can read it quite easy, because I wanted it to be easy to read,
Yes.
Not because I don't know the information. I know that all the technical terminology. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But I didn't want to put that in a way for it to be obstructive for people learning the knowledge.
Yes.
So yeah, bro. And just like anything, it needs to be renewed, and that's why we're doing the part 2.
Beautiful. That's beautiful to know. Brother, we have about a minute and 20 seconds left, right? Like I said, the book is good. And you know what? It's £10. Yeah, a tenner. A brown. It's nothing. It's nothing. And you know what? When we're talking about, you know what, passing it to probably a young person that we know, or somebody in the family who may, you know, who may be inspired by it. For me, buy it, give it to one of the young people in the family. You know what I mean? Read it yourself. See what you can gain, because I've been learning some gems out of the book already, you know, bro.
Yeah, thank you, bro. You know what? You know, it's funny because I met with a group of elders last year when we opened Legacy.
Yeah.
We launched in September, and I had a meeting with some elders, and they'd all read the book.
Wow.
I was like, they all read the book. They was like, yeah. They were like, yeah, man. I you know, when you wrote that, you said, I like when I was proud, man. I was really proud. You know, I was really proud because, like, you know, for our elders to kind of feel something positive that I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, the real ones who've been doing stuff. You know, that's the kind of like respect that I enjoy, man.
Sorry, Cypher,
So
got 3 seconds.
I would like to salute